Welcome to the Dripping in Black podcast, where we celebrate Black excellence throughout the Black diaspora. Here's your host, David V. Lewis.
What's up, good people all across the world? This is the Dripping in Black podcast. I am your host, David V. Lewis, and per usual, we have another fantastic guest who represents Black excellence across the world. Today's guest is the incomparable Alyssa Space. Alyssa, say hello to the world.
Hello, world. How are you?
All right. And so Alyssa has a fantastic story that I can't wait to showcase to our audience. But as usual, when we have somebody come on as our guest, we ask them a very simple question to get our podcast started. And some people say it's not such a simple question. The question is, who are they? So who is Alyssa Space?
Well, Alyssa Space, me, I am, outside of being a chemist, I am a STEM advocate. I really stand for trying to increase the retention of young girls, especially women of color, in the STEM field, because there is a need for us there and we do belong there, in fact. So I would consider myself a STEM advocate, and that's science, technology, engineering, and math.
Mm-hmm. A STEM advocate. Where was this STEM advocate born and raised?
I was born in Chicago, Illinois, but I was actually raised here in Detroit, Michigan, where I am currently.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. And what schools did you matriculate through?
I actually attended several schools. I started at elementary school at FLIX, which is Foreign Language Emerging Cultural Studies
Oh,
schools.
yeah.
Yes, I actually learned French there. Je parle français un peu. And
Wow.
then I continued on to middle school at University Prep Academy, which was a charter school in Detroit. And then eventually on to Academy of the Sacred Heart, which is an all-girl Catholic school in Bloomfield. And finally, I earned my Bachelor's of Science in Chemistry at Michigan State University. Go green.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. All right. So you really from around this way.
Yes.
Tell us something about Detroit. Tell the audience something about Detroit. That's like somebody who's never been here. What's something you would tell them?
Honestly, I really love the fact that not only that Canada is right here, but in Detroit, we have the river, the Detroit River right here. So Belle Isle, and then being able to like stroll along the Riverwalk during the summer and spring months is like a huge attraction. So I do love it.
All right. Excellent. So we reached out to you. I read a story about you in the Detroit Free Press. I was very, very impressed by it. I said, this is a person that represents what we're all about, a person who's about Black excellence. You have for-profit things going on. You have a nonprofit thing going on. So we're going to get into all of that. So let's begin with ForHerCosmetics, right? Yeah. What is that? What is ForHerCosmetics?
So ForHerCosmetics is a STEM-based, all-natural, vegan and cruelty-free cosmetic line that I formulated myself and started in my mother's kitchen back in 2018. So I literally took raw materials and ingredients that I wanted to put into cosmetics that I'd never really saw before and create like vibrant, beautiful, long-lasting cosmetics. So that for her is basically like my baby and like the third person saying like, this is for me. But essentially I created for her to create a platform in cosmetics for women of color, especially darker skinned women, because we typically were left out of the beauty spectrum or what was considered beautiful when cosmetics were, the beauty industry as it has been developing. So.
Yeah. Yeah, and so part of what I read has something to do with you were at one point in dance and they had you wearing some kind of lipstick, and let's talk about that. You probably can tell the story better than I can.
Yes. So I was definitely into a lot of like extracurricular activities outside of school when I was younger, one of them being dance. And when we had recitals, we had to wear blush, red lipsticks, lashes, and our buns. And I loved everything about like the process of getting ready and just becoming like the full character of the dancer I was in that performance. However, I struggled with the lipstick colors that we had to wear because they just didn't work with my skin tones. And we had a uniform color that everybody had to wear. And I know as a color theorist and a chemist that one color doesn't fit all. So
And so that became the impetus for her cosmetics.
yeah.
So the other part of the story is interesting to me is, so you just go into your mother's kitchen and start whipping up stuff, huh?
Yes.
What did your mom think about that?
Well, this actually had been a reoccurring thing throughout childhood all the way into adulthood. So at first it was like, why are you wasting my perfumes and lotions when you're making these concoctions in the bathroom, to this is going to be something great, Alyssa. Like, I'm glad you're like really following your passion. So it definitely changed over time.
Okay. So, all right. So you create this thing in your mom's kitchen and it becomes ForHerCosmetics. So let's talk about it. What is it? Where can we find it? And what is it all about?
Definitely. So we actually are available online through our own platform, www.forhercosmetics.com. And then we're also available in stores at Not Sorry Apparel in Ferndale. And I just received amazing news, but we're actually going to be available at Meyer at the Rivertown Market down here in downtown Detroit.
Wow.
Yes, so we are growing.
Yeah, that's dope. We have a related story. We did a Dripping in Black interview with Rayshard Tucker, who owns Pizza Man Pizza, and he also has Pizza Man Pizza downtown in Rivertown, Myers as well. So that's a kind of a dope connection. All right, so drop that website for us where they can reach out and get some of your products.
Definitely. You can visit us at www.forhercosmetics, that's FORHER cosmetics.com.
Yeah. I think I read somewhere in your story that did you have a change in your major, or were you always going in for science?
So I was always in science. However, I went from engineering to natural science. So originally when I went into college, you know how your parents are always like, do this, you'll make the most money here. So my mom was like, chemical engineering. And then I was like, I don't really want to work with flow rates. I'd rather work with wet lab. So I decided to switch over to natural science and to chemistry because that was more of what I wanted to do, which was research and development, product development, and just really work in a lab setting. So.
Yeah. So I would imagine you faced a few challenges along the way to get to this place where you have your own cosmetic company. So let's talk about a few of those.
Yes, I started in corporate first. However, I didn't even originally out of college go into my field of study that I worked for 5 years. So I was a little disappointed, but it's kind of funny that I guess that turn in my career actually ended up helping later on with my nonprofit. But I actually used to work with students with autism as an applied behavioral analyst. So that's where my love and passion for working with kids came in. But after I finished my time there, I actually worked as a quality assurance chemist for one of the biggest pharmaceutical companies in America, North America, actually. And then I moved into the auto industry where I worked as a quality assurance chemist there with metal plating, boring things like that. But
yeah, so you leave college and you get off into these various jobs, still somewhat in your field of study, but not quite what you want to do. Right. And then you land on this idea for ForHerCosmetics. So, and again, I'm always thinking about inspiring you. You have an idea about creating a cosmetic line. How do you give me some 1, 2, 3? How do you get from the idea to the fruition of it?
Honestly, at first, this is funny, it started as a blog for me. So I would always post different things that inspired me or that I would want to essentially manifest and create myself onto my original ForHerCosmetics Instagram blog. And then as I was doing my research, I was watching YouTube videos, watching like just like different like videos that would show essentially like the technique, not necessarily what I was going to create, but like soap making. I looked into like sponification and just looking like, okay, this could be something that I could do. So I just honestly sat down and it was trial and error when I came up with the process, because when you think about it, to create a lipstick, like you have to think about the molds, the amount of a certain ingredient that you're going to put in. Is it going to give you the texture that you want? Is it going to transfer? Yeah. Is it going to last? So that quality assurance came in from my corporate experience. Wow. But then of course too, like my own just like creativity also played a role in creating that. So
all right. So it started off in 2018. It is now 2021, and we're going to date this a little bit. We're recording. We will probably drop the episode in 2022. All right. So the 2022 Alyssa Space has a chance to go back to 2018 and talk to that Alyssa Space who wants to get into cosmetics. What's some advice you would give her?
Honestly, I would just give myself like a pat on the back and tell myself to just keep going, because there were times when I was like, is this going to be in vain? Like, did I put all of this time in corporate for no reason? But I would give myself reassurance and just let myself know that like all of the hard work, sleepless nights, even just like missing the fun events at that time, because at the time I was in my younger ages of 20, but those things that I were missing out they're still going to be there. And this, what you're building now is going to be much bigger than the things that you feel like you're missing out on now. So,
yeah, it's such an interesting question, an interesting way to think about that, right? It's really a faith thing. You know, you can't, of course, now you can look back and say it, but of course we don't get that vantage point, right? So it's really all about your faith and just kind of going with it. And at some point, probably telling yourself to keep going and encouraging yourself to get to that place, right?
Right.
All right. So there's another part of your story, the nonprofit, which I think is equally as dope. So let's talk about Myspace Laboratories.
Yes. So I started Myspace Laboratories, one, because someone always told me, whenever you start a business, you should put your name into it. So my last name is Space. So that's why I made Myspace Laboratories. And then two, it's kind of like a double meaning. So I felt like when I created this space, I was creating a space for people to feel comfortable also to come in to explore, create, and connect.
Yeah.
Kind of like our motto there. Creating a safe space for not only girls, but just children in general that were interested in science to be able to figure out and play around with like real world science experiments that connected to today's issues. So Myspace Laboratories is also my second child. And it was started because I did have trials while I was in corporate America, especially like I mentioned before, being a woman of color in these spaces that are not really occupied by us. I faced microaggressions, micro racism, everything that you could possibly think of. And I know that I didn't want to necessarily create a space that was like segregated, but I know how it could feel, and it does feel in those spaces when you aren't necessarily thought of as equal or, oh, affirmative action, that's why you're here type of thing. So we created Myspace Laboratories to level out the playing field for students like me when I went through college, and as well as internships and then into corporate.
Yeah. So Myspace Laboratories, in this microaggression, micro racism that you faced, Myspace Laboratory helps to, I guess, encapsulate the people you bring into that environment from that experience.
Yes.
Talk a little bit about that. How does that work? How does that provide that safer space? What's the advantage there?
So we typically do like either one-on-one classes or really small classes that encourage the student not only to participate in an experiment, a science experiment, but we also incorporate different entrepreneurship classes, self-esteem building, anti-bullying. And these are things that students deal with while they're in school and going into college, and that they face as they go through high school into college as well. So I thought that not only bringing like a STEM program, a STEM enrichment program to the city of Detroit and just in general to my environment and my community, I thought that these classes would create a well-rounded individual. It also shows that there are other routes outside of like the typical, I know a lot of parents push their kids to say, oh, become a doctor, a lawyer, but there are other creative routes that they can follow. And we essentially are showing them that there are other ways to go into the real world. So,
yeah. So it's so dope to me. So if I wanted, let's say I have a daughter that I want in Myspace Laboratories, what are the steps I take to get her in there?
yes, so our website, myspacelaboratories.org, we actually have an intake form like webpage where you can actually put in your interests as well as review the class types that we have, because we do partner also with nonprofit organizations, public schools, things like that, churches. However, we do also provide individual classes for students that are interested. So that's grades 3rd all the way up to college now. We used to stop at high school, but now we do universities as well. So
yeah. So a 3rd grader comes there. What's the experience for her?
So she gets to come in, or he gets to come in, and they can create a lip balm, a lip gloss, a exfoliant, and they learn the science properties behind the product that they're creating, as well as just basic chemistry, how these actual ingredients are meshing together. For instance, for our lipstick, which is like our most popular program, they learn about emulsifiers and how boiling points work and melting points are different when creating these products. So there's a science and beauty focus with every like course that we offer.
Yeah. And I was kind of going with the female angle. I guess the boys can come in and learn as well.
Yes, we encourage self-care too for boys, because we understand that they're not using lipstick, but if they do decide to, that's up to them. But we have lip balm and alternative to programs for them as well.
Yeah. So before I ask this next question, is like ForHerCosmetics and Myspace Laboratories, are they connected in terms of, from what you're doing, or are they like 2 separate ventures that you're kind of involved in?
So actually they started off as one. So For Her actually used to do these programs that we do for free now with organizations. I actually used to host programs to raise capital for my business, because the organizations that I was like involved with, they were like, we love this idea, we want to participate. And I would actually, like, outside of like my own work that I was doing or grants that I was applying for, I'm sorry about that, that would actually allow me that would allow me to bring in capital. So that's how it started. And then For Her became self-sufficient to the point where I was able to set it as a nonprofit where we could get grants outside from either the government or the state and incorporate these classes into like low income areas.
Yeah. All right. So then my question is going to be for both parts then. The first part, we'll talk about ForHerCosmetics. All right. So you're at a certain level right now with ForHerCosmetics. And in the future, you want to take it to another level. Right? What are some things that need to happen for it to get to the next level?
So that's kind of like a 2-part question to me. So I was thinking like, so the goals ultimately that I have for both organizations is, of course, to gain over 100 or 1 million customers by the year 2025, while also impacting 20,000 children with our program. And we've already reached a little bit over 15% of that goal within just the first 2 years of having the program. So I know that it's possible, but in order to reach those goals, we want to, one, gain more coverage, of course, through like news outlets and things of that nature so that people are aware. But then 2, we are building our board, we're building our volunteer database, as well as for ForHerCosmetics, working with more vendors, working to get our brand in front of more names, and then even into big box stores so that we can reach these numbers.
Yeah. And so for us, Dripping in Black, our goal is to get, more and more viewership and have people see these stories. And, when somebody like you comes on, our hope is that our audience hears that and they want to come in and be in partnership with you. So I'm glad you were able to kind of put that and chronicle that. So it's the same question for Myspace Laboratories, right? You are where you are. I'm sure you're happy where you are, but I'm sure you're striving for the next level when you have goals set for that as well. Mm-hmm. So what does that next level look like for Myspace Laboratories?
I would eventually too like to partner with like the school districts within either Michigan or throughout the United States to incorporate like after school programs that come into schools and do these like either summer programs or after school programs where we come in and do these experiments with their students. I think that really getting students involved earlier in, especially girls, in those fields will really change their mindset on whether if they think like, oh, this is something for boys or this is actually something for whoever just like science or whoever is curious about it. So I really would like to impact different areas of the United States and different areas of Michigan with our program on a more set, like, this is the curriculum for 2022, and this is how many schools we're going to be in. So,
yeah. Oh, that's dope. I'm smiling because I think I might be able to help you out with that. I'm in the schools myself, so we'll have to talk after the show and see about how we can connect you with some people over at my school. I think we would love to have your program in any capacity in our school. So, all right. So I think we've talked about all the things that I like to get to. And so I'm going to have you just drop some of your social media and places where people can reach out to you real quick for us.
Of course, we are on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook at ForHerCosmetics. And that's just like our website, ForHer Cosmetics. And then we're also on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter for Myspace Laboratories at Myspace Laboratories, and on Twitter is Myspace Labs because they have a character limit, but yes.
All right. So let's get to our last and most important question that we like to ask each and every guest that we have on to the Dripping in Black podcast. You ready?
Yes.
All right. Have you ever been on the cover of a magazine?
No, not that I can, no, but I would like to be on one.
Okay, so the answer surprises me. I thought for sure there was one in there somewhere.
Because okay, maybe like a newsletter, but I don't know if that's considered the same. No.
Newsletter letter is worth recognizing, worth mentioning. You've also been in the newspaper as well.
Yes.
But you haven't been on a magazine cover yet.
No, we're working for Forbes, but yeah.
Well, they say a step before Forbes is the Dripping in Black magazine cover. And so one of the things we do for all of our guests is we place them on the cover of our magazine. And so my producer is going to pull up your magazine cover.
Oh, that's so nice. I love it.
Yeah. And so that is also a parting gift. It's a thank you from us to you for coming onto our podcast and sharing your story and inspiring others. If you look over my shoulder, there's quite a few guests, absent, of course, of Barack Obama and Michelle Obama, who I would love to have on Dripping in Black, by the way. I'm just putting that out there. But you see a lot of our covers from our first season, and we have quite a few that we haven't put up yet, but that's the Wall of Fame. So we will put you up there as well at some point, just as a thank you for gracing us.
Yes. Thank you.
All right.
That's amazing. I need to get one for myself. I need to start a collection on the walls, as you see. don't have any decorations really.
Well, we will print it out and we will send it out to you at a later date. Again, as a thank you. All right. Any shout outs you want to give out before we close this out?
Yeah, like I of course I want to shout out my mother for allowing me to be able to explore and just having the ability to take the time to develop my craft and really grow in my business, because her support is really what allowed me to accelerate. A lot of times our parents can be our worst critics, but she definitely gave me the support I needed in order to grow and get on my own feet. And I'm grateful and forever indebted to her. And then of course, I don't want to sound cliche, but shout out to my haters. No, I'm kidding.
Hey, I got a friend that says your haters are your elevators.
Yeah, make me go harder. But no, the people that have been there to support me, my team, my employees, my contract workers, I really wouldn't be able to do the amount of work that we accomplish without their support and their help and consistency. Yeah. So I am truly grateful for my tribe and my village. And yeah.
All right. So we want to thank Miss Alyssa Space for joining us on the Dripping in Black podcast. And I implore our audience to go in and find out a little bit more about her. If you have a child that is interested in STEM, young child, please reach out to her, help her get her numbers up, support her in getting her numbers up. And again, we thank you, Miss Alyssa Space.
Thank you.
We'll ask our audience to hang on for the final segment, the last drip, but thanks again to Miss Alyssa Space.
Up next, the last drip.
All right, so earlier you flexed a little bit on me with your French, so I'm gonna test you now. The Dripping in Black podcast, how would Dripping in Black sound in French?
Dégoulinant de noir.
Ooh, say it one more time for me.
Okay, I'm sorry. Dégoulinant de noir.
Wow. All right, thank you for that.
No problem.
A Dripping in Black thanks to Alyssa Space. We are asking our audience to support this young lady as she educates and inspires our youth through her important work. However, we have reached the final segment of our podcast called The Last Drip. The Last Drip is the last opportunity for us to squeeze in a bit more of Black excellence for you. In this final segment, we highlight a common thread between our guests and our vast and rich African-American history. For this episode, we celebrate an icon in the cosmetic industry by the name of Eunice Johnson. Born Eunice Walker on April 4th, 1916 in Selma, Alabama. In her youth, Eunice was a seamstress who made shirts for her father. As a young adult in 1938, she earned a bachelor's degree in sociology from Talladega College. In 1941, she earned a master's in social work from Loyola University in Chicago. While in Chicago, Eunice met and married John H. Johnson, with whom she founded Ebony magazine in 1942. In 1958, they created the Ebony Fashion Fair. This was a runway show that traveled to hundreds of cities each year. At some point, Eunice noticed that many of the Ebony Fashion Fair models felt compelled to create their own shades of makeup to fit their skin tones. In 1973, Johnson, upset by the lack of available cosmetics for Black models, founded Fashion Fair Cosmetics. Fashion Fair Cosmetics was the first department store cosmetic line for Black women. Within 3 years, the growing popularity of Fashion Fair Cosmetics prompted established companies like Revlon to introduce the polished ambers line for Black skins, Avon to start Shades of Beauty, and Max Factor to produce beautiful bronzes. Famous celebrities like Diane Carroll and Detroit's own Aretha Franklin appeared in ads to help promote Fashion Fair. In 2003, Fashion Fair Cosmetics grossed $56 million in sales, making it the largest Black-owned makeup company at the time. Throughout her life, Eunice Johnson received numerous honors and special appointments, including an honorary doctorate from Talladega College, a Golden Life membership from the prestigious Delta Sigma Theta sorority, and membership on the advisory board of the Harvard Graduate School of Business. Fashion Fair remains the largest Black-owned cosmetic company in the world today. It is also a great model for our guest, Alyssa Space, and it is the reason why Eunice Johnson is this episode's last drip. For more on Eunice Johnson, check out theageofgrace.com, americacomes.alive.com, doriaaduke.com, and popsugar.com. My thanks to all of these websites for the knowledge. A friendly reminder that the DIBK Drip Shop is open. Go to DIBKDripShop.com to get the latest Drippin' in Black merch and all other merchandise under the Drippin' in Black Productions umbrella. As always, we give a huge thanks to all of our listeners, viewers, supporters, and subscribers, and a big shout out to the best producer in the podcast game, Sean Smith, aka S Squared. And until next time, remember, be kind, be loving, and be excellent on purpose. It is a choice.
You have just experienced a Dripping in Black production.